and welcome back, friends, to the Soul Material Podcast, the podcast you cheer for and the channel you cheer for. I'm your man, the OGEO.
All right, it's T Mark the Street Shark.
And it's time once again for that sneaker business talk. And you know, the Shark and I, we go deep into the details, and we had noticed something that's not really being talked about or trending online. And we're just wondering what the heck is going on with the timeline of releases. Hold on. Hold up, as Nate Dogg says. We're going to go into the details and explain a little bit further. But if you have not noticed that some things that we see on the court has taken a little bit longer, even from a non-traditional standpoint, than usual. And Martin, like, what's up with that? We know about the tariffs, we know about materials, we know about things going on overseas and so forth, but are brands now getting lazy? What's going on? So, hey, Shark, let's talk about it, man. There's one shoe in particular I know you had your eye on. You waited on for a while from the time you saw it, from when you thought it was going to be released to when you were actually available to cop. So let's dive right into it, man. Let's talk about this topic that we are now going to make trending. What is going on with the timeline with certain sneakers and why?
All right. So again, we're asking the questions. We just don't promise to have all the answers. We're just giving our take. Because it's hard to tell. If this is a production issue, is this a strategy? Is this a shift in launch campaigns? Where exactly are the resources limited or not? And we're going to do our due diligence and talk to some of our industry friends to find out what's going on. But in the meantime, we just want to have a healthy conversation. So we're actually going to splice this up, so we're really going to dive deep. So you're actually going to see some multiple episodes on this particular topic. So buckle your seatbelts. So we're going to start with, backwards and go forward to where we're at, right? Because one thing that is very noticeable, it's hard to tell. Are we moving away from the age that a signature shoe has to come out every year? Because it's starting to stretch out that it's like a year and a half. And then, or someone, players are wearing the same signature shoe 2 seasons in a row. But you had to wait the first season to even get it on the retail shelves. So, is this good or bad? We don't know yet. We don't have, it's not a big enough, sample size, but I wanted to beeline to the Nike Devin Bookers. All right. The book one, we've talked about it on other episodes, where, of course, like many releases wasn't, we saw the sketches. It was, oh, what is this? But then when you got it in multiple colorways, he had the perfect palette to execute so many colors. And one color in particular that got my attention was, and he does some great storytelling, was the 1995 All-Star D Books. All right, so this is inspired by the All-Star Game jerseys from 1995 that was in Phoenix. Got the book one on there, got the all stars on the side, and that purple with the teal, or that aqua teal. I think the camera caught it nice because you got that purple suede on the tongue, but then you got the mesh mid quarter right here. Great details. Got the book. We've shown you these details before, but at the end of the day, we had to see these on the court, and then you have to guess, are they a PE? Are they really going to come out? So at first we saw him wear these where he was warming up in different colors, and then sometimes he would play them, or like an alternate version where they flip-flop the colorways, or he's changed the laces in these as well, that we've seen. So, this caught my attention, like, oh, I got to have these if they even come out. So there's like this waiting pattern of finding out if they come out. And then like the season's over. And then you don't hear until the next season, that next spring, right? Remember the season starts in fall. You don't even hear until like, oh yeah, after All-Star, then they'll come out in 2025. And we sitting there in 23 and 24 sitting there like, what can we expect? So just wanted to put that question mark out there and say, is anybody noticing that? Do you care anymore? Because, when it comes to the strategy, like, of storytelling, sometimes this gets, we're going to dive into that with some other brands too, but like sometimes it's hard to keep the story and the equity of the story alive if it's not tangible. There's too much distance in between the preview and the hype, and then the actual acquisition. You know what I mean? Like this could be another extended order acquisition because we really going into like how it even gets to the shelves, and how long it takes. Now, certain brands they're moving at. It feels like now different brands are moving at different paces. We used to everyone because it looked like everyone was competing with themselves during our era, so they were on same production cycles, similar production cycles. But now it feels like with the world and different priorities through different sports for each brand. Basketball, you know, it's just not they're not running the same linear race anymore. So some brands are pumping them out. I know our friends over the Curry brand. The models are already done. They've been done for the next Curry, and there's like a second model that you hadn't seen before that Curry wore in the playoffs. And then there's other models that are already made. Wink, wink. But they might be scrapped. So just having access to look at some of that stuff and how fast it happens. But they have the relationships and things like that. And probably because of their China market and their Asian market, it makes so much sense. Because they're releasing a lot of stuff over there, sometimes exclusive just to the global market or the Asian market. So just thinking about that. So I'll just pause right there, because that was a mouthful to just tell that part of the story and pose some rhetorical questions. So I'm gonna kick it back to the OG, so we can keep going back and forth on this topic of timeline. So how did you react? Did you have a shoe, that you had a similar feeling about or question of like, man, I copied it was on the shelves right now, but like when is it coming out? And then you lost interest or something like that.
There was, believe it or not, when Zion first was drafted. But here's where I'm kind of vexed, Shark, because there was once upon a time back in our day in which you'll see the shoe on the court, unless you were going to pay 4 digits for it, particularly in your size, because I said, Shark, you wear a quick strike size, 12, 13, depending on the shoe, 12 and a half. You weren't getting it. So a part of me is saying, hey, now we're at a point to where we're now doing what they're supposed to be doing, and these athletes are now modeling shoes, not just the quote unquote GRs or sort of limited ones, kind of PE-ish or P-ish types, and they're coming out. But I'm like, dog, can we get it like a couple of months within the season? So it's almost like at one point we weren't getting it at all, and you had to be in the know these folks. It was a secret society of folks who would get PEs from certain companies, and they'll have their own way of getting rid of them and so forth. And now it's like, okay, fine. I see a person like D Book or Zion wearing this shoe, this color that I haven't seen before, and it's this kind of, I guess, secret leak or kind of leak, and I'm like, cool, but my interest is going to peak, and then it's going to subside, and then it's going to go down and start trending downward because we are human beings, and it's a timeline. And you're talking about after a year, and now watching not only D Book, but people like Anthony Edwards, where again the same model, more than one season. It's been an adjustment for me. So I know I could be kind of old school with, and I don't want to be that old guy. It's how get off my lawn. It's how it was back in the day. But I'm just trying to be a little bit even. But come on now, man. A year's a little bit too late. If you're going to keep the same model going, then fine. But give me my All Star. I should have to wait till All Star 2027 to get something you wore All Star 2025. I'm like, give me a break. Like, who will have the interest of wanting the shoe? So that's probably why a lot of D Book shoes and so forth, if you go online now or if you're out in the streets, they are reduced. So again, talking about the strategy, marketing, so forth. I'm not sure what's going on and who's in place, but companies got to tighten up, man, because competition is fierce. And you talking about just what I call a snapshot society right now. Everything is transactional. Unlike in our day, Tony, we will hold on until and be patient. So I knew it was a few LeBrons. I ain't put your business out there. There was a few LeBrons that I knew that were kind of online only. You were very patient about. And I'm like, we're in society now to where maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months go by. Those LeBrons now are going to sit. Once I see them, I have the interest in them. You kind of tease when the dates got going to kind of come, and then the dates online. People being sources. It may be off, maybe somewhat off, and then you got to wait a whole year after all of that. Tony, I'm not feeling that at all.
Like the information and news cycle, like the social media cycle is already microwave, So think about that compared to the timeline of how people have moved on, and it's almost like I feel like when they finally release, it comes back a little bit on the social media wave, but it's not the same impact of the excitement. It's just like here it is, and this is another piece of the news feed. So it feels like it's just bland and unauthentic after like it loses some authenticity because it just feels canned.
Indeed.
It feels robotic. It just feels like what we talked
Unstrategic.
about in exhibition at the beginning. It
Mm-hmm.
feels like they're talking to sheep, and we told you, the way the consumers act in the market, they kind of deserve to be talked to that way. You know what I mean? But if you actually really engage, and actually social media really be for people who want the shoes, not to get the clout of talking about it. There's too many people just talking about shoes that aren't really about it as well. And back to Nike basketball, to call them back out again. Recently they released their basketball lineup for the fall 2025 into the new NBA season, and you can see that there's a handful of PEs that will release. In particular, let's talk about Jordan Poole. All right, because they have the GT series. So there's a GT cut that is like milk and cookies. Look like chocolate chip cookies. That I thought were really cool. I thought they were the best PE that they had for the Wizards. And yes, he did rock them last season. We caught some viral moments. I wish it was for the Wizards winning, but it was, Jordan Poole talking about, tell Nike to release my shoes. If people keep talking about it that they like it, tell them to release it. Now they did release like the sunshine colorway that didn't kind of go with anything. I guess it was just more of a going off the Pool name, but it didn't really translate. But he wore multiple PEs, but one of them will release. But as a Washington Wizards fan, this is the timeline we're talking about. The people saw it. The Wizards, we don't even have nobody with no signatures. So like somebody had a PE. Like, come on, like put some more attention to that in the nation's capital in a major metropolitan area. I don't care what the team is. How good the team did. You're in a metropolitan area. That means that you can. People have disposable income at different rates than others. They if you build it, they will come. All right.
Indeed.
Don't underestimate that part. But I say that to say, now look, Jordan Poole not even on the Wizards. We done traded him to the Pelicans. So when the shoes finally come out, now you competing with two different fan bases, and we've moved on. And then, like, do they know him enough in New Orleans? Do they care enough to buy those
Facts.
down there? So those are the things that I'm talking about. There's a number of other athletes that have GT PEs. Drew Holiday. Look, Drew Holiday. He got a PE. What team he on?
Who he play for?
Yeah, who he play for? Yeah, we need to get Barkley out this joint. You know what I'm saying? Who he play for? Play for? Same thing. Like, so this is why we're having this conversation, because I'm like, are y'all seeing this? Are is this thing on? Is anyone alive on the other side of the screen when it comes to what's really happening in this industry? Or are we just sheep in line, just going with wherever they tell everyone to go. Because again, that timeline of some of these, and then I'm questioning like why Cade Cunningham, like however all these other people skip the line and here All Star. Like, look, I get it. Not trying to say get off our lawn, but you gonna know what the Foot Locker House of Hoops PE what that felt like. We gonna keep that part alive. So we not we that's what we was used to. You know what I'm saying? That type of access, but I didn't say it had to be everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Tear it out. That's why tier zeros and everything else existed. At least get it out there. And having the limited releases, like, this is why this stuff get marked down. You teased it for so long, and then you gave all these quantities away. Did you not notice that people don't care about stuff that they can readily get?
A tease, not a tease at that point.
Nah. Like, so, unless you're really the small, 1% like us that are sitting there like locked in, and really looking ahead. But now, you can't look a season or two like calendar season, or retail season, that is. Now you got to look calendar seasons ahead. For what? I get that it's predictability doesn't matter but so much, but I feel like that shift years ago where Nike strategically broke off Kevin Durant's releases because it was always bundled together with LeBron and Kobe and
Kobe.
KD. But one summer around, what was it, the Sixes? Yeah, I was trying to fact check on my shoes right here. Yes, the Sixes with the KD Sixes, which are coming back. Um, uh, that was the first time they put the signature athlete to release in the summertime. And KD was doing a lot of the Rucker Parks and really, he was the pickup guy. You know what I'm saying? That in early social media times or earlier social media time, where it's that summer ball and he wanted to hoop. And you at Rucker, you at the Goodman League, like, and really catching.
He was everywhere. He was on World Tour that summer. I remember that.
Yeah. So those type of things translate to, it makes sense that you release his shoes during the summertime and then really give that full story arc lead into it. But you started the campaign and then 3 weeks later, you can get the shoe. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then more stuff comes out. So that's what I was talking about. And I feel like they've been sliding the scale in with and then there's, it's a copycat industry. So other brands might be doing it or see other value like Adidas. You mentioned earlier, Anthony Edwards, where, you know what? I kind of not. That's the asterisk. Like, I'm not really mad that they stretched that shoe out,
Mm-hmm.
because it was just a hot shoe. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't get that basketball shoe to be the sneaker of the year across the board. Like that often. So that was lightning in the bottle. That I felt like if it's not broke, don't fix it right now. You know what I mean? And then they had the bad reactions from the twos. The little leaked images, which wasn't even the final version anyway. And it was like, you know what? Yeah, ride it on out. Let this man cook. Let him go through the playoff. Let him go through it again. And then even now, like, is the shoe coming out in the fall or the spring of 26? You know what I'm saying? They're just saying it is coming. We've seen the full final version of it. I think it is the fall for the first color, but at the end of the day, there was a lot of colors, high and low, for Anthony Edwards. So let it run its course. And you notice that the markdowns wasn't as swift as
Mm-hmm.
now there are markdowns, but it wasn't as swift as the Bookers. Now the Bookers, they went OD with, I love his storytelling, but there's a lot of stories. You know what I'm saying? So I was just like, what are y'all gonna do for the two if you release the 20 colors or whatever? You know what I mean? We've seen a little bit of that with LeBron, but it looked like it slowed down a little bit with LeBron, where you don't get 15, 16 colors anymore. You might get 10, but and they focus on the takedowns and the next series and everything like that. So getting back to your OG, just for that additional thought on Nike basketball in particular, with some of the stuff we saw on court next season that we're now like, oh great, now it can come out this Christmas. What are we gonna do?
It's gotten interesting, man. And I wanted to see if you had anything else in that vault that you wanted to shout out or show, to keep the party going as we move the needle forward and proceed on the same topic, but shifting it a little bit. because I said I know we're going to have multiple parts to this discussion because, as we said, there's a lot of layers that we're going to have to unfold. But I know you got something back there to show us, so go ahead and just reveal it out, and I'll have you just do what you do, and I'll pick
Yeah.
it up from there.
So we'll talk about a designer because his shoes hasn't come out yet. But one designer we've talked about it. Been on our sneakers of the year brands we support, and we've talked about him, and that is no other than Salehi Bembury again. You know, he's had the Crocs collaborations. He's had we got New Balance. We got Brand Black. We got, and now Puma, because we talked about this earlier this year with another episode mixed in with LaMelo Ball, where we talked about Salehi joining the Puma brand and specifically working with Reese Halliburton. All right. And now you got the Puma Halle 1 that was displayed during the playoffs. And oh, guess what? Just like Soul Material told you, you can spike your equity really quick if you perform and create signature moments on the court. And what did he do? Every single round, there was a game winner. Okay. And by the
Historically,
time you got to the finals, game one at OKC, he had the Halle ones on and then brought him to the press conference. All right. So we've seen so many different you know, official pictures of the shoe now. They're this is recorded in July, but they're talking about releasing it in September. All right. So, you know, for a shoe that we just saw in the NBA finals, basically, and it comes out in September, hey, not bad. Not bad at all. Would have loved for that momentum, you know, to say limited release or something to where
shot
everyone's
drop.
beat to get a couple of the products out in the marketplace or at least seed it to the social media people, you know what I mean, and get reviews going and stuff like that. But it's just so unfortunate that he got hurt. And we know that he's not going to play the entire next season. This is what we're talking about. The next season is not guaranteed, ladies and gentlemen.
Yo,
So yeah, he had the moment, and then a week and a half later, the moment passed, and now we got to wait a year for a new moment. Now, great that the product's about to come out, but now I say that story to wrap up this half of this topic is what are the residual effects of the consumer demand going to be on not seeing him on? Like you can release all the colorways you want to, but everyone's going to have to remember what it looked like when it was on the court, and because you won't see it again. They're not going to give us the first signature shoe to somebody else, to another Puma athlete. They might rock it, you know, but they're not, you know, they're probably not. But I think that I'm really excited for that shoe. You know, we'll be first in line. I'm trying to go get it and review it on for our audience here. Really love Salehi's design. So really just wanted to talk about Salehi again because, you know, I want to show different versions of some of the shoes. So like this particular New Balance that he did, this is another Soleil. He got that thumbnail signature print on there. Got the cork insole that he likes to do on a lot of the New Balance collaborations. You know, this was a pretty cool. This is the 530 model. The 530 model. I think with Soleil, I love his launch strategies because he does a lot of teasers on social media. He has such a global following that he can get away with UK releases and limited releases and stuff like that. We only have 100 here or there. So, but when you interact with the fans, when you interact with the consumer, you just wet the beak of the market. You know, there are different timelines associated with Salehi, but I think that I'd like to give him credit that some of that stuff is strategic, and so that he can control. When you collab with so many brands, I think you do have to have a little traffic control with what's going on, just to not oversaturate yourself. And it looks like he's doing such a great job of keeping his own pipeline because, you know, I'm sure he has like 4 or 5 projects that we don't even know about, let alone his own independent shoe that he's working on right now. So just a New Balance 530. This actually released overseas first, and then it came here where he released it on his site. So I like how Salehi will release stuff on his site, and then like a couple weeks later, the actual brand will release it on their site. So when you have independent collaborators, and then they have control of the initial launch, I think it just goes a little smoother. So interesting to see if he'll release anything early for Puma on his site versus the rest of the universe. But another example is the Crocs that we talked about. Here's the camo, the Real Tree camo Crocs. This one probably is one of the longer releases where it took almost a year when we first saw this, because we've been pumping out Crocs Polex for a little bit. But this was originally a friends and family where he just seeded to select people, but I guess it got popular and they reconsidered, and then a little while later, boom. And then they made it to the Croc site as well. So, I think this model changed the game for a lot, and everyone started doing the molded stuff after he got made Crocs relevant again. Go back to our Crocs are cool episode, and just illustrating that timeline. But again, not mad because the people that wanted them, they got them. This guy right here. I love camo. And then one more before we go, because we like talking about brands, clarity over popularity, stuff you don't normally talk about. This was a very sleeper collaboration. All right. This is Salehi's Brand Black collaboration. All right. Brand. So another casual trail shoe with the Vibram sole. And it's kind of like wrapped on here. It's like, so that's a unique way that they added that. These things are so comfortable, it's not even funny. You know what I'm saying? And this particular colorway, this was one of those like, if you don't know about Brand Black, then you really weren't checking for them, checking for these like that. But if you're a Salehi fan, you got interested, and I know people jumped on these. He just does great photo shoots and that are just so unique, and he has like this connection with nature, and all of his elements are, he's a hiker, and and he really translates his storytelling, and the way the materials that this dude has access to is ridiculous. You know what I mean? So it just makes me question, like, if he's sitting there collaborating, like, why don't y'all don't want to use none of this stuff? You gotta be more creative, but it's just easy to tap into a hot designer and come up with something. So this particular model, I feel like it was one of those that it shot out the gate because it was Salehi, and then people got what they wanted. The hype beast got it at that time, and then like, because I'm the shark, this was like a $250 shoe. I got this for like $80. You know what I'm saying? But I had to wait a little while. But then some of the boutiques started to mark a couple of these down after the wave came, so I swooped on in. But yeah, Salehi and Puma really like what they have going on. We got to see it. Unfortunately, we just won't see it perform for a full NBA season. So it's nice to tease things during the playoffs. Look, we're the old school era. We love new shoes for the playoffs. We love, shout out to MJ, the final shot. Them 14s wasn't in the dang stores, you know what I'm saying? Like, what we talking about? It was, but at that time, we didn't have the social media and all these other outlets. So now you're like glued, like, what is he wearing? Because we knew he was going to wear something in the playoffs. But then it's like, what? And we talked about this in other episodes, like how to get ready for the All-Star shoe. We were conditioned for the beginning, middle, and end. Okay, in the beginning, what's the new shoes that are going to hit the court? Okay, now wait till All-Star, wait till Christmas, and then everyone has a special Christmas shoe. All right, and then now get to All-Star, special All-Star shoes. Then get to the playoffs. Look at Steph Curry. All right, LeBron James. They both had playoff shoes that were like takedown. The Soldier series. All right, the Dub Zero. Those were the playoff shoes. And then you establish legacies in the playoff shoes, and then you can switch back and forth from your signature to your playoff shoe. Man, what about the good old days? So I like that we got to see a couple, models on the court. And we'll talk about more in the next episode, some shoes that we saw. But for now, we're just going to put a pin in it. And I'll let the OG give any other final remarks for the part one of this sneaker business talk episode on the timelines.
No, with Halliburton, man, it's so unfortunate because I believe if you were part of Puma, you probably would have did a shot drop, maybe of 1,000 shoes after the first round. And what he did historically, even with him being hurt, it would have just put a pin in things to keep some of the buzz going, some tangible in people's hands. And I think they would have done a great job as far as it marketing itself from, again, the people talking about it, having it, pictures, what have you, and holding on to say, okay, we could wait on him because we got this, and he's going to come back just as strong, and let this be a leap year, a delayed year, whatever you want to call it. When you graduate high school, you have that 1 year, that gap year. Let's be our one gap year. But I'll be back. And that didn't happen, man. So him having him on the court and doing what he was doing, I know that probably wouldn't do anything as far as profit wise for the company, but you got to think long term, as you taught me, Tony, and strategically, and what are we doing here, and what's the outcome from a macro standpoint. And I think it would have been cool just to have something just released, just so a few people would have them, not just to create a false sense of hype, but he kept going and going and going, and his performances were what they were. So having that piece of history would have meant something to a lot of us, including us and being the old school people that we are. But it is what it is. Can't wait for part two because I'm trying to not open my mouth about what we're going to talk about then. I got a few things on my mind since we're talking about Halliburton and injuries and so forth. But just go kick it back to you and say, man, part one is done. But this is just one or two or three layers out of a multitude of layers that we're going to have to peel back. So I'm looking forward to the next episode.
All right, let's do it. So for this part, we're gonna wrap it up. Gave you some sneaker business talk from the podcast you cheer for, the channel you cheer for, and always love providing our audience with that clarity over popularity. So till the next episode, is T Martin the Street Shark.
And your man at OGEO. Until next time, peace to you.
Sneaker business talk. It's the Soul Material Podcast.